In this module we learn how to start Vi, we learn how to edit files, we learn how to save files, and we learn how to quit. There's more to that than you might expect. Let's have a look. Like most text editors, well, and word processors as well, Vi can be started in one of two ways. You can either open Vi with a particular document, or you can open Vi just, if you like, as an empty canvas, without reference to any particular document, just, if you like, in new document mode. And this is how you do it. If you want to use Vi to edit a file, then you simply provide the file name on the command line, on the shell command line, after you type in the words VI. Give you an example of that. If you want to edit a file called script1, you just type in Vi space script1. Or if you want to edit multiple files, you can type in Vi and then the multiple file names. You could, for example, specify Vi space script1 space script2 space script3, or you could just use a wildcard character like asterisk, as you can see in front of you. If you want to start Vi without any reference to any file, you can do that too, and you just type in VI and press enter. Let's have a look at those various examples. If I want to start Vi with a file name, I can do that. I can say Vi another.txt, and there we are. It opens up, and I can make any necessary modifications that I wish to make to it. I won't show you those modifications now. I'll show you in the next module. I'll show you another way of starting Vi. I can start Vi with an asterisk, star.ml, like so. And once I'm in Vi and I'm theoretically editing multiple files, I can use the command, you'll see this later in this module, :n, see the little in the bottom left hand corner, :n to move on to the next file, and then on to the next file, and then on to the next file, and so on. Finally, if I want to just start Vi by itself, I can just type in VI and press enter. Now the text that you can see there is just a little introductory screen, if you like. It's a little splash screen. It's not actually the text that you have sitting in your memory. We learn from this that the version of Vi that I'm using is VIM, or Vim, which is an improved version of Vi. But don't worry, I won't be showing you any of the improved features which I show you will be relevant to all versions of Vi. One of the things you'll notice about this particular version of Vi is that often the files that you open up are color-coded. You might have noticed that from one of the HTML files I opened up a moment ago. And that's unlikely to be the case with the Vi that you're using. Everything will just be in plain black and white text. Notice also a bunch of little tildes or squiggles down the left-hand column. Each one of those indicates that there are no lines there, no lines of text. So in fact, it's only one line of text. It's a blank line. It's the very first line in the file. And the second line that you can see on the screen has got a blue squiggle on the front of it, as do the rest of them, which indicates that this is not actually a line at all. Now if I make some changes at this point, I'll just type in the word hello, for example. Hello, press escape, back into command mode. Before I can quit out of Vi, it will probably ask me to save my changes. No, actually that's a mistake. It won't ask me to save my changes. I just need to know that the changes need to be saved. But there is a little bit of smartness going on with Vi. It won't let you quit out of Vi unless you save your changes, or explicitly say that you don't want to save your changes. Now if you start Vi in empty canvas mode, as I've just done, in other words by not specifying a file on the command line, then I must nominate the file that I'm willing to save the text that I've typed into before I can exit. And I'll show you that very soon. Okay, now that we've seen how to start Vi, let's see how to perform some basic. You'll find yourself in command mode when you start Vi. I think I mentioned that before. So to simply add some text, some regular boring old text to the file, type in a command like. See the A there? A to append text after the current cursor point. If you type in the command A, you'll then be taken into insert mode. Then you enter some text, whatever text you like, on as many lines as you like. Once you've entered the text, you press escape and return to command mode. Let's see a brief example of that. So, theoretically I'm in command mode, so I type in A. Now notice that the A does not appear on the screen. Instead, down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen I get insert. Now you may or may not get that in your version of Vi. It depends on the version of Vi. Sometimes you can't tell if you're in insert mode. You just have to know. Anyway, now I type in some text. A quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Now I'm still in insert mode until I press escape. Now I press escape. Notice that the word insert has disappeared from the lower left hand corner of the screen and the cursor has moved back onto the last letter that I typed, which in this case was a G. And if I want to type some more text, I can simply type A again, and now I might want to press the carriage return to go on to the next line and type some more text, and maybe press escape again. And I repeat that until I've finished adding all the text that I want. Now, at this point I'm not going to show you all the different ways that you can issue commands to do some various editing tasks in Vi. I'll simply show you the variety of ways in which you can quit out of Vi. On this slide I'll run through the myriad of ways in which you can exit Vi and save the changes to your files, or choose not to save the changes to your files. Let's start with the simplest one. :W. If you're used to perhaps a Windows-based text editor or word processor, it just does a save, but we think of it as writing the file. Now that will only work if a name has been specified. Let me show you. Now here I am in Vi again, but I have not specified a name for this file. I started Vi, if you like, without specifying a name on the command line, so it's kind of on an empty canvas, or a new document if you like. So if I just type :W, it gives me an error message, no file name. I'll now show you what it looks like if you do have a file name. Here I am in a file called sample.html, and I'm actually editing this file, so I can just do a :W, and it just saves sample.html. It shows me that it has saved 111 lines and 6,330 characters written to the file. So that's :W. Next we have :W, then space, and then the file name. Now that's, if you like, a save as. That's what you need to do in Vi if you did not specify a file name on the command line. And even if you did specify a file on the command line, you can use this particular option to save your changes to a different file, just like a save as. Let's have a look at that. Back in my original file, I could simply type :W and maybe call it new.file or something like that. Then I press enter, and it is a new file. It's got the words new in brackets there, telling me that this file's never been saved before, and tells me the number of lines and characters again. Now that it's got a name, I can create another line of text or something. After minute to minute made, I can simply do :W, and because the file has already got a name, I don't need to specify the file name again. Moving on, we've got :Q, which allows you to quit, but only if you haven't made any changes, or the changes that you have made have been saved already, or you've done a :W if you like. So to summarize that, you can only use :Q if there are no outstanding changes yet to be saved. Let's have a look at that. Now I have saved this particular file, so I can do :Q, and it just drops me back out to the shell prompt. If I go back in, Vi new.file, and make a change, another line for example. Now if I try and do :Q, it tells me that I have made no write since my last change. So it gives me an error message. This is very useful. This means that you cannot accidentally exit Vi without a little warning message to tell you that you're supposed to save your changes. So now what you would typically do is do a :W and then a :Q. Unless of course you wanted to abandon those changes, and I'll show you that in a second. The next option we have is :WQ, which, as you can imagine, saves the file and then quits. And this would have to be one of the most common ways of exiting Vi, if not the most common of all. You've made some changes to the file, simply do :WQ saves the changes automatically and quits. Another example of a common way to is :Q, which we saw just a moment ago, which would be used in the case where you're just opening up the file in Vi just to have a look at it. You're not planning to actually edit it in any way. So those last two options represent probably the most common ways of quitting Vi. Let's have a look at :WQ. Here we are again. I have made changes, but I haven't saved them. Now I can do :WQ, saves the file, and then quits, as you can see. The next option on our list is :X or Z, capital Z. Now notice those are capital Z's, not lowercase z's, and notice also that you don't put a colon before either of the z's. This is supposed to be one of the more user-friendly ways of exiting Vi, but I personally don't like it. What it does is it saves the file if you've made any changes, and then quits. And if you haven't made any changes, then it doesn't bother saving the file, it just quits. And the reason I don't like it is you may have accidentally made some changes, especially if you're not very familiar with Vi. You may not even be aware that you've made those changes. So then if you use this option, it will save those changes, and you may not be aware that you've actually modified the file. If you don't believe you've made any changes, then it's simply best to use :Q, and then Vi will warn you if you actually have made some changes. Then of course you can choose to abandon those changes, and I'm going to show that to you now. :Q exclamation mark. You can use the you can think of exclamation mark as meaning really, really. So this would mean really, really quit, and necessarily abandon any changes at this time. So I'll show you an example of that. I'll make some changes, just add some more text to my file, and now :Q, and it tells me there's been no write since my last change. Notice it also says use exclamation mark to override, which is now exactly what I'm going to do. :Q exclamation mark, and it just quits straight out of the file. And if you go back into the file, you'll find that those changes that I made are gone. Let's have a look at some more. :W exclamation mark allows you to write to a read-only file, if it is a read-only file that is owned by you. If it's a file that's owned by somebody else and made read-only, you can't make changes to it using that particular technique. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now I have a read-only file that's called another.txt. It's owned by me, so that's okay. Notice at the bottom it says read-only. So I'll make some changes to it. Just start typing in some text. Now that I've typed that text in, I do use :W, and it tells me the read-only option is set, and use exclamation mark to override, which I will do, :W exclamation mark, and it successfully writes the file. Moving along, look at some more options. :E space file, which means open another file. E for edit, edit another file. Now again, it will only allow you to do that if you have not made any changes. If you have made some changes, use :W to save them before you open the next file. The reason being, and this is quite important, please take note that in Vi you can only be editing one file at a time. You can't have two different files open, both with changes made to them, and both requiring saves before you can exit Vi. You can only do one of those at a time. Vi can actually keep track of several different file names for you, but you can actually only be editing one of them at any given moment. If you want to edit another file, you've got to save the changes or abandon the changes in the first one. So if you want to open another file, use :E space file, or if you want to abandon the changes, E exclamation mark space file. Here I am in the file. I'll make some more modifications to it. Okay, and now I'll edit another file, new.file for example. No write since last change, so I could save that now. :W. Oh, that's right, this is a read-only file, so I'll use :W exclamation mark, and then E new.file, and then it opens new.file. Interestingly, you can use :E hash, or, as a shortcut key for that, Control-6 to open the last file that you edited. In other words, switch back to whatever it is, whatever file you just came from. And you can repeatedly use those two options to switch back and forth, just bang, bang, back, forth, between two files. I'll show you that. I simply type :E hash, :E hash, :E hash, Alternatively, a little faster, I can just do Control 6, Control 6, Control 6, Control 6, and so on, back and forth and back and forth. Now, assuming that you started Vi with several files on the command line, you need to be able to move through all the different files that you specified on that command line. Let me show you what I'm talking about. If I start Vi with star.html, now there's supposedly several files on the list that I am going to be able to be editing, and this is just the first one. Remember, I said you can only edit one file simultaneously, but you can actually have a list of files that you're going to be editing, and that's what's happening here. I'm editing in the middle of editing the first one, but the remaining ones are still, if you like, in the list of files to be edited. So I can use :n or :n exclamation mark to move on to the next file. So I can finish making all my changes in this file, save my changes using :w, and then use :n to move on to the next one. So I would do :n, and then :n again, and then :n again, until I run out of can't go beyond file. Now, interestingly, there's actually no way of going backwards through the list. You can only go forwards through the list. So what if I wanted to go to one of the earlier files? Well, the only way I can do that is to rewind, REW, back to the beginning of the list again, which takes me back to the very first file. And then I can do :n and :n through the list again. Don't forget, of course, that you do have the option of going back and having a look at the previous file that you were just looking at using :e#, which just takes you back to whatever you were in a second ago. So we've seen that, we've seen :rew. Finally, :f will simply display the details about the current file you're in. What's the file name, what line number you're on, and so on. You can also use Control-G to do exactly the same thing. Notice that on the slide in front of you, Control-G is specified as a little @ symbol, or I'm using @ or the caret symbol to represent control character, and that's a very common notation used in Unix. So that little symbol followed by the G, you can read that as being Control-G. Anyway, those two key combinations display the current file details. I'll just quickly show you that. So to find where I am in the current file, I might go down to a certain point in the file and do :f, and it tells me the file name I'm in, and how many lines are in the file, what percentage of the way through the file I'm in, and what number of the list of files I'm in. I'm the third of 6 files. Okay, well that just about does it for manipulating files in Vi. In the next module, we'll have a look at how to edit any one of these individual files.